So we have a guest speaker tonight. I'm going to hand it over to Anne and have you introduce yourself and give your guest lecture.
Great. I'm happy to see all of you. I'm Anne Wilmot. Of course. Can you hear me now? Can everybody online hear me okay?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay. And then in the room, let me know. They might have to come closer.
In the room, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So yeah, I'm Anne Wilmot. I work currently, I've been working for Upstate Interactive as a product owner. And I'm just about to transition to a new job that actually starts today at a company called Foundry Digital. I got this job through Upstate Interactive. So it's kind of an exciting time for me. The thing to know is that I was a television producer of a daytime soap opera called The Bold and the Beautiful up until the middle of last year. I've had a really long career in television, and I'm going to share my screen. I promise you these slides are not very interesting, but they kind of guide me. All right, there we go. I called this the parachute opened because I had this long career in television. I've done all kinds of different things. I worked for Ted Turner in Atlanta. I worked for public television in New York. And I went through the .com crash in the late 90s, and that created all kinds of chaos in my life, but also some new opportunity. And eventually I ended up at a daytime soap opera. This wasn't really soap operas were not the world I came from, but it was a great job and a whole chapter of my career. And I was there for 14 years. And television is really the only thing that I ever wanted to work in. I don't think I had any other ambitions. When I was a kid, I kind of wanted to there was a TV show that you could audition for, and my mom wouldn't take me, but I just wanted to go. And then in college, I wanted to do that. But my career in television also crossed over with some amount of technology, especially in the 90s when it was kind of the beginning of the internet and everything was new and very bleeding edge at the time. And I really loved that part of my career. When I went to work in, television network daytime TV, that is the home of no technology, right? That's a machine that's been running for, I guess, 35 years at this point. And it's not cutting edge, right? The only bleeding edge comes from how boring it can become to just manage something that's already in motion. Even though I will say that was a great part of my career. But in 2014, I was feeling a little bored at work, and I read this article about Bitcoin. And let's see, are any of you familiar with crypto, and is anybody going into Web3 as a job?
I'm a little bit familiar with crypto, and I've been hearing about Web3. So as far as the metaverse and stuff, is that a part of Web3?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm interested in technology of VR and AR.
Okay. Yeah.
And could you give us a quick overview of what Web3 is? I think a lot of the students have idea of full stack, but we haven't quite gotten into labeling that as Web 2 yet. So
yeah, sure. Yes and no, in that this is sort of a debated topic, right? But I think Web3 is, cryptocurrency, people think of it as just being about trading and finances and making money. And there's so much more to it. So I think Web3 is sort of a naming of, the idea being Web 1 was the internet, and when it was new that I began with, that was very decentralized. And, the vision was sort of everybody can access it. Web 2 is where all these big companies like Facebook and Netflix and big silos got built on top of the internet and provide much of the content you see. And when you when you use the internet this way, right? You sign into Netflix and then you watch videos, and then you sign into Amazon and you buy something, and you sign into whatever, a class, and you and they aggregate your data, right? And they have your login is different everywhere. So in Web3, there's a large amount of different kinds of services besides just payments that become available in this sort of blockchain enabled version of the internet. So now you can have an identity, or you can have the ability to sign in using a Web3 wallet that doesn't rely on each party that you sign into holding your data and keeping a password for you, and keeping, which always gets hacked eventually, right? All those central systems that keep track of all kinds of data about you, which is not particularly beneficial to us as users. So with the blockchain enabled internet, you can have your own identity. You have kind of a state of the internet that is tracked aside from individual silos, and it enables all kinds of things like DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations, other kinds of just collaborative services. So it's a really big space. So Web3 is way bigger than crypto. I also think it's gained a lot of popularity because, even my mother still thinks that crypto is probably for money launderers and criminals. And I keep reminding her that I'm clearly not a criminal or a money launderer, but people are suspicious of it. So Web3 is also putting a nice new face on what it is. It's a really big topic. If you read articles, I was looking up what is Web3 for a handy definition, and some of the articles will tell you it's like the future, the only thing you need to be doing, and the other articles tell you that it is like the end of the world and everything is ruined because of Web3. So you just got to keep an open mind and do your own research on that. Is that helpful?
Yes, very much so. Thank you.
Okay. I mean, you could talk about that all day by itself. So yeah, anyway, I did all kinds of television work, and then I was at the soap opera, and it was a whole career. But in 2014, I bought some Bitcoin. I just was curious. Like, I read an article and I was kind of curious, and I thought, I don't understand this. Like, where is it? How do you buy it? How do you store it? Why isn't there a physical form of it? And so I just decided to find out about it and buy a little bit of Bitcoin to see what it was like. I wish I was the kind of genius that bought a bunch more Bitcoin in 2014, but over a year I bought about a little more than one Bitcoin when it was about $500 for a Bitcoin. I think today it's way down at 35,000 or something. So so I just pursued my passion and my interest in that, and I kept working at my job, but I kept realizing that this is how, I don't know if you've really seen somebody go down the rabbit hole about something technical, or maybe you've done it, but what happens is you kind of go, oh, this is interesting. Then you go, this is really interesting. And then you just progress down that to the point where you say, I think this is the only thing I should be spending my time on. Like, I need to do this. So that's kind of what happened to me over the years. And in 2019, I started going to meetups earlier than that and meeting people and talking to people. And then I started a meetup group, and it was called The Rabbit Hole for obvious reasons. And it was a group, like an organization where we just held meetups all of 2019, every month. That were organized by women and were friendly for everybody. And it kind of worked. Men came too, but it was just meant to be like, it's okay if you're a beginner. We'll discuss some advanced topics, but you won't, it's okay if you don't understand everything. We'll help you. And it was great. It was really fun and very successful. We got a lot of attention. And also that year, late 2018, 2019 was kind of not a great time in crypto. And I kind of love the not a great time in crypto, because what happens is people who are just in it, like, they think they can turn something around and make a quick buck, but they don't really care about it, all those people go away, right? And then you just have the people that really care about it. And so actually it's a good time to build something when like it's, you know, like in a bear market is actually a good time to build, which is lucky because we're in a little bit of a bear market right now. So then there was a global pandemic. I'm sure you all noticed that going by, that like, you know, took 2 years out of our life. And the reason my slide says adventure is because my whole career has just been like, I love to work. I love to learn things. I've loved having a career. I loved having a career in television. But the biggest adventure I could take after the pandemic was to just recognize a moment when I could go and work in Web3 full time. The market, like crypto prices went up like crazy in last year. This was the middle of last year. It was the first time I saw a lot of institutional money going in from like big banks and regular organizations and, you know, regular companies. And that made me feel like this was finally an industry that could maybe support somebody like me. My job, no matter what the title of it is in what industry, it's always kind of being the glue that sticks things together and being the person that keeps moving things forward. And like, you know, I'm often like a team lead, but I never really, I don't really like try to be the boss. What I try to do is bring everybody along and unstick whatever problems people have. So I always have the same job, no matter what it's called. It's always like the person that knits things together and the person that keeps things moving forward. So I saw that in industry, like before, if Bitcoin went way down, you were going to lose your job, right? You could have a job when there was a lot of money and then not a job when it was bad. Now I see that there's just so much space for money to be moving through the system. And I got more confident that it wouldn't just be dependent on the price of the crypto. So let's see, ping me when I'm like also running out of time. During the pandemic, I did pandemic safety work, COVID safety work for the TV show. It was a really incredible part of my career. I ran the COVID safety, I wrote the COVID safety protocols. I was actually the first person in the United States to go to the talent unions, the Directors Guild and the Actors Union, and negotiate the right for us to return back to work. So therefore our soap opera was this like industry leading return to work. And we worked out a lot of the issues and lots of other people went back to work. This was very inspiring for me because all of my coworkers could not work and there wasn't other work. So I just felt like maybe if I contribute here, then some people will get their jobs back. That worked better than I had ever imagined. And so for about a year and a half, I ran a COVID testing program and managed safety protocols with a team. Like I had a team that worked on set. I learned a lot of interesting stuff, most of which I don't ever want to think about again, because I just realized like medical policy for a television show is not a job that I ever want to have again. As a very strange invented job just out of necessity. But I think what I learned about myself at that point was that like there has to be somebody who can see things coming down the pike or handle unexpected things. So working in a soap opera, there are few unexpected things, right? Like I was talking about, it's a machine. But when there's a pandemic, every single thing is unexpected and you have to invent from scratch. So I realized that I'm the kind of person that kind of sees it coming and figures out what to do about it and then brings everybody else along. And that really made me think maybe I could work in crypto, because crypto projects and now Web3 projects are all about inventing something new where everything isn't already designed, right? So I just was like, took that note for myself. I'm good at this. This is something I think I could use. And I had imagined setting out to, I don't know, when you're my age, you don't really just send out resumes and see what happens. Like ageism is a real thing. And I wasn't confident that anybody, would give me a job. But I thought about looking when I suddenly came upon an opportunity through my friend, who's one of the partners of Upstate Interactive, who needed a product owner. And it happened just the way I thought, which is that I networked and I put my heart and soul into what I was interested in. And then I met somebody who saw my skills beyond my age or my gender or my, job title or the fact that I was in a different industry, and gave me an opportunity, which I was unbelievably grateful for. So anyway, to just briefly wrap up sort of this, I went on medical leave halfway through last year. I was extremely burned out by the COVID work, and burnout, it's not a medical diagnosis, but it is a real thing. And I never want to feel the feeling I had again. It really was like people would ask me a question about COVID protocol and I would answer the question, but inside my head, all I could hear was like, yeah, I don't care. I don't care what you do. I don't care about this. And that's not me. Like, I have to care. So when I just reached a point where I knew I had to take a medical leave. It happened really fast. And then I thought really hard about what could I ask my company for? And I realized there was nothing. I don't want to go back. I just want to work in this thing that I've been dreaming of for years. And the opportunity came and I took it. And so hence the title of my talk, The Parachute Opened, because it did. I sold my house in Los Angeles, bought a house in Cheyenne, Wyoming, where I live now, and became a remote worker. I was also one of those people who did not want to go back to the office at all. I like being remote. And so, I hedged my bets lots of different ways, and I thought about this for several months, but when I jumped, I just did it. And it was really one of the most terrifying things I've ever done, especially just not being the age of, other people that are getting new gigs and moving across country for a job. But I immediately had work. And then it just progressed to the point where I've been on a project full time. I turned down other work. I actually do a number of different things because Web3 just kind of works like that. But I have one full-time gig, and I have been able to turn down work or sort of like move away from a project I'm not interested in, which is like so exciting for me to sort of think, because so much of my career, I just did whatever I had to do and I did whatever needed to be done. And so in this part where I'm like, I'm not that interested in it and I don't have to do it, I really enjoy that. I guess that'll last as long as it lasts. But so I jumped, the parachute open. Then by this miracle, I came to this other job, which I was not looking for a job, hadn't put out any resumes, hadn't talked to anybody about it. I was really happy with what I was doing. But I got an opportunity that was so much, the new job is like more than I could have imagined for myself. So now I'm pretty happy that I made the jump, that I was brave, and that it worked. And it's great. I work in what I'm passionate about instead of, what, what other people would want me to do. I could take any questions if you want. I had a few other things that I wanted to mention that I wanted to just leave you with a few, because I'm not a coder, but I'm very technical. And I use that in the product owner work. But I kind of wanted to leave you with whether Web3 is your thing or not. I wanted to leave you with some thoughts on things that were useful. But I could pause and take a question if anybody has one. And also I can't see everybody, so just talk if you do. Okay, so the biggest thing that I was thinking about was about curating my career. The way that I've always done it, and it is to, in every opportunity, every job has some things you like, hopefully, and always there's some things you don't love about your job. I mean, just always have to do some stuff that's not as much fun as the other stuff. I try to keep that in proportion so the stuff I don't like doesn't get too big. And I try to expand on Like I try to do more of what I love. If my heart beats a little faster, I get excited or I enjoy it. I try to add more of that. And then the things that make me feel like bored and sleepy and annoyed, which is many things, I try to just reduce the amount of those that I do, right? I try to fulfill my value in my job description, but I always try to just shift that balance. And I haven't been very strategic about my career. I didn't pick a thing to do. I just navigated by kind of this, following my passions, indulging my curiosity, showing my enthusiasm, and you know, trying to just do less of what I don't like, even though you can never eliminate that altogether. And what that allowed me to do was get jobs that don't exist yet. Like if I were in college and I said, I want to be whatever, I've been able several times in my career, and this is one of them, to take on jobs that didn't exist when I started really thinking about the next job. So right from the beginning of my career, like you couldn't hire an internet project manager who knew how to do that. So I was young and pretty green, but I got a lot of opportunity because I was, you know, like game for jumping in and figuring it out. So same thing is true now. I think you cannot hire a ton of people in Web3, by the way, there's so much work, such a desperate need for developers. Like never, when you get this done, never stay in a boring developer job that you don't like, when there's incredible opportunity in Web3. You know, if you love what you're doing, great. But if you get bored and you think you're looking at Web3, there's just an incredible amount of opportunity and need for all kinds of different people now in that area. Like there's never enough workers, and certainly never enough diversity. So, you know, there's work in Web3. So this is one of those times when you can't hire a person in Web3 that, it's not like I'm the most brilliant person. It's just lots of other people haven't followed this path for as long as I have. And so there's opportunity for me, and I'm really grateful and excited about that. And this is one way that I did it, was not getting too hung up on what I want to do, but just trying to feel my way through. Feeling my way through also allows me to pick up on things that I like that I never really thought I would like, or I didn't know about. So then,
And I have a question for you. So
sure.
Our students right now are just starting their capstone projects, right? Which is a journey all the way through, and they've started, you know, working with requirements planning and starting to realize that there's a lot more than just the technical aspect to pull off a technical project, right?
Yeah.
Do you have any advice from your years of experience in terms of managing a personal project, even if you're only the one person working on it, or any time that you saw like sticky points that are common across projects or anything like that?
Yes. Gosh, the project I'm on right now is very big and very complicated. But I think it's the same when you're by yourself. I mean, you have to pretend you're a team, right? So break out your tasks, you know, make a list of what you accomplish. Like to do something like this capstone project, you will both be at the high level of understanding what you want to make, and then also at every single level of detail, writing every piece of code and making every decision. So this skill, actually learning to jump between the high level and the very detailed level, is really important, right? If you spend all your time in the weeds, you can't think about like the overview and what's coming. But if you only think about the overview, you can't really get the detail done, because you know, the detail requires not only time, but also the ability to have immersion, right? To fully immerse yourself, like to go down that rabbit hole and stay in there for a while, right? So I think that this will serve you really well to context switch, give yourself enough time to be way in the weeds, right? But then when you come out, look at your list of sort of tasks and your requirements and what you are trying to get done, and then steer yourself a little bit and say, all right, I'm running out of time, I better skip this, right? Or I'm gonna put this later on the feature set. So all of these things, I'm gonna skip the rest of these slides because they're more of the same. I can just talk about them if we come back to that. Yeah, so that's one piece of advice. I don't know if that's helpful or not, but that's what I use to navigate all the time, to go, even when it's a big complicated team. Like I manage, one group that I manage is a team of mathematicians, European PhD mathematicians. I mostly do not know what the heck they are talking about, but I'm still responsible to understand their tasks and, you know, create a project management ticket about it and track through what they're doing. So this ability to sort of go way down in the detail, ask a lot of questions, and then go back up and figure out what you're doing with that, I feel like that's helpful. There's a million other things you can do in project management, but I guess that's, yeah, keep track of where you are on the map, right? And where you are in your timeline, and then make smart strategic decisions about what's working and what's not working. There's nothing more tempting sometimes than like, you can't figure something out, and so you just keep throwing yourself at it until you do figure it out. And sometimes you should do that, and sometimes you should jump up to a higher level and say, you know what, this can wait, I better move on. I also find that I took a boot camp, developer boot camp on smart contracts. I'm not a developer, but I learned a lot by doing it. And one thing I really learned by doing the coding part of that is there's days when you feel like a genius because you just solved a problem that you just thought was too hard, and then you figured it out. And then days when you feel like an idiot because you can't figure it out, or you made a dumb mistake, or you had to ask for help or whatever. And I was complaining to a friend of mine about that, who said, yeah, that's pretty much the life of a developer. Sometimes you're an idiot, sometimes you're a genius. So I try to just even those things out, which is impossible. Like when I feel like an idiot, I really want to jump off a building. And when I feel like a genius, I'm like, I'm so amazing. So, you know, balancing that out a little bit, like having the highs and the lows, but kind of just sticking to, again, like, what's your map? What are you trying to do? It is really, I spend too much time doing this in life. It's just super not useful to spend a lot of the time in discussing with yourself what an idiot you are. Like, I fall into this and it's not super helpful, you know? But it's sort of impossible to avoid. So if that happens to you, don't stress. Maybe you already had that experience. I don't know, but what else? Do you have any other questions?
Definitely encourage the students to come off mute and ask any questions, or throw them in chat and I can read them aloud as well.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what else in project management. What I love the most about being a product owner, well, this is a great transition too, because now I'm doing more product work, and that's kind of what you're doing for yourself, is designing your project, right? That's designed by you, so it can be whatever you want. It can be whatever you want that you feel like you can implement in the timeline. And so breaking down, I've always been hired as like get things done person, but this new job is really the first time I'm kind of hired to know things and think about things and design things. And I'm sure there'll be some amount of being a getting things done person too. But to start with, it's really just like research and understanding and developing a product. And I'm so excited about that. So remember, even as a developer, even if you're kind of like, you just get hired to do coding, for instance, there's opportunity for people who can see the bigger picture, who can help other people, you know, keep the tasks in order and keep things moving forward. It's okay if you're not that person, like you're a great coder and you just like coding, but a certain amount of, you know, coordinating teams and coordinating with other people and understanding the overview and looking at it like a product, I think is a very employable area.
And we do have a lot of graduates from our program that have gone into those job roles, right? Where we
Yeah.
you know, the exposure to the technology is great, and being able to utilize that in day-to-day product ownership or product management or project management is definitely a popular outcome of our program. So Something to keep in your back of your head for the students.
I mean, one other thing I just wanted to say from the big ideas that I was thinking about was like things I just promised myself I would tell other people if I got a chance. The biggest one that came out of the last few years for me was that I do not want or let other people define me, or if they do feel that they are defining me, that's fine. I just don't necessarily agree with that definition. I felt too limited sometimes and too like, just kind of, I've always been sort of a strange duck, but like at this age, I'm older, but I'm pretty technical, but I'm not a developer. When I was younger, people encouraged me not to be too technical. And ultimately I have to be who I am and do what I think. And so, at times in my career, I felt really sort of oppressed and like I didn't have a voice or I didn't have a way to really use all of my abilities. And so now I just try to paint from the full palette of whatever I am. I've also gotten really acquainted with things I know I'm not good at. Like over time, you're going to find things. Don't be too quick to write them off because you can learn, right? But I just know certain things are not my wheelhouse. Those are where I need to get help or fill in with other skills. What I think I'm good at, what I've done well at, it's just, I don't let anybody else hold a vision of me that limits me. I mean, it's none of my business what people think about me. I don't know if you've ever heard that phrase, but I think it's really true. None of my business what people think about me, but I don't have to agree with what they think about me. So this is kind of an area for me that I'm experimenting with, just to be whoever I am and be good at what I'm good at. So I hope that all of you will be able to do that. Also, when other people are the problem, the facing adversity thing is really like, you do everything to fix your situation and to change yourself to work with a situation that's not adverse. I mean, that's adverse, but sometimes you just can't control the factors of adversity. So, I'm not too quick to walk away from that, but I always try to remember, why am I where I'm at? Like, I don't have to do it forever. Let's say you graduate and you get a job and you find that there's not the kind of opportunity you wanted, or I don't know, your boss hates you. That happened to me before, or whatever it is, right? So ultimately, it's very helpful to remember I'm here because I'm learning blah, 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 and I'm making good money, and whatever the reason is, I get lots of vacation time, or it's close to home, whatever it is that you like about it, just remember why you're doing it and remember that you don't have to do it forever, right? This really helps you to think ahead. Like, don't say, oh, I'm always going to be stuck. You're not. You can change the channel when you want. But sometimes we stick out a situation that's not awesome for a little bit longer, right? Until the next thing comes. So again, that's something I've been successful at. Sometimes I've stayed for a long time, or sometimes I've moved on after a couple years. But either way, I just, try to keep my head up and don't, just face adversity. Don't let anybody else. I would like to say I don't let anybody else hold me back, but of course that isn't true. Sometimes other people hold you back. And then you just decide how to handle that and how to do that. That's been actually really influential sort of learning in my career. The other thing is sometimes people that don't get you, or who annoy you, or who you find adverse in some way, it sucks, but those are the people that teach you the most. Like, you can learn so much from people that you're not like easily aligned with. So anyway, those are just some general thoughts I was thinking about career stuff. What else can I tell you? Also, just be ready for opportunity, right? That's one of the biggest things, was that I don't think anybody at my age, nobody's going to tell you, and this will happen to you for different reasons, right? But nobody's going to tell you, this is a great idea. You should quit your well-paying job with a lot of benefits and plenty of time off and go be freelance and live in a place where you don't know anybody. Like, on the face of it, It sounds like a terrible idea, but I felt it from myself, and you know, I saw the adventure coming, and when there was an opportunity, I was ready like that because I already knew what I was looking for. So always take the adventure.
Thanks so much for all of that. Any final questions?
Oh, but I like the statement that you made.
What's that, Wayne?
I-
Sorry, you cut off there.
I like the last statement that you made. Always take the adventure.
I mean, yeah. You guys are, any of you, if you'd like to, you're always welcome to contact me. You can, do you want me to share that, or do you want to, you could just, anyway, they can ask you, but anybody, you are welcome to, if you're interested in Web3, if you're decide that's a career path for you, or you ever just want to contact me for any reason, you're welcome to. I'm on Twitter, Discord, email, all the things.
But when you refer to Web3, like for what we're learning now, what would we also need to learn in addition
Oh,
to?
yeah, it's, well, first of all, like just being a good developer who understands, you know, sort of the full stack and how to create the kind of products that you're creating. Yeah, that's a really essential base that everybody has to have some of. And then on top of that, like there's, you know, smart contract developers are, you know, just, you need smart contract developers. Auditors are needed who can audit smart contracts. And honestly, to learn that stuff, if you ever want to try something fun in this area, try Crypto Zombies. If you just look up Crypto Zombies, Crypto Zombies is, I did it twice, once when I had no idea what I was doing, and the second time after I did. Crypto Zombies is super fun. It won't take you a lot of time. And basically you walk through creating a zombie game using smart contracts, and it kind of just walks you through it, and it will give you a feeling for some of, like, you know, the kind of stuff you would learn. But I will say this, I've had people who are programmers say, but I would have to go to, you know, back to school for even more time. And I'm like, they need job people so much that, you know, there's great online resources, there's great classes, and you can learn some of this stuff pretty quickly on top of the base of what you already know. Smart contracts and blockchain stuff just has some special like wrinkles that have to do with writing something permanently to a blockchain that you can never get rid of. And so there's some learning, but it is not too hard for you, and it's something you could build on top of this.
Awesome. And there are a couple thank yous that popped up in the chat.
Thanks. Oh, thanks. Well, I hope that was useful. I'm really not, oh, lots of them. Thanks, guys. I'm inspired by you guys and what you guys are doing. I really, really am. And I think there's so much opportunity in just in general, the kind of work that you guys are training to do. So I wish everybody the best. I want you all to be massively successful.
Is your Gmail address the best one to share?
Sure, yeah, sure. Hold on, I will just quickly, or not, no, not. Okay, yeah, Ann Wilmot at Gmail, WILLMOTT. Like I said, you can find me on Twitter under that name, and on Telegram, and then Discord. So happy to just be there if anybody wants to talk, has questions, or I can, you know, help you in the future. Thank
Awesome.
you. Thanks, Christy. All right. Well, good luck, you guys, with everything that you're doing. Good luck with your projects. And I'd love to hear how y'all are doing.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so let's dive into stand up. What did you guys learn last week without me?
We talked about you the entire time.
Oh,
Yeah.
my ears were ringing. I was wondering why.
Yeah, that was we learned a lot. So
Miss.
we're live. Our we have domain names and we have our portfolios are online and people can email us from our
So
forms.
what were you thinking of DevOps? Was it what you expected? Was it something different? Or how did Nathan cover things? How are you guys feeling on the whole topic?
I feel like what I learned from it is that it's like an essential part of being a developer, like that you're gonna have to do that part no matter what, so you better remember it. And that's what I took from it.
Yeah, that's a great point. And a lot of developers kind of are not looking forward to the DevOps part of it. And there are other developers that realize that they like the operational part of it more than the actual development of it. And it's a really interesting industry because like it's always existed, right? We've always had the need to get our code out there and make sure that our code is working and being able to deploy to the internet. But I want to say in the past 5 or 10 years, people have started to recognize that like, hey, that's something that you can specialize in and do full time and not be the developer writing the code, but helping the developer be the one to operationalize it, right? And to get it out on the servers and the web and all of that stuff. So Nathan and I actually have a very similar background in terms of Nicole, to your point, kind of needing to do it just because it has to get done, right? And that's how I learned DevOps was, you know, hey, I need to, my website's done. Now, how do I get it working on the internet? How do I go buy a domain name? What's this DNS thing, you know? And no one tells you initially like, hey, that DNS is just going to take a couple hours to do, right? Because we're so used to things being instantaneous and running our code and instantly see it not work that when we do the DNS wrong and we have no feedback system for it, we're like, it's broken. Why isn't it working? Why can't I get my lock to show up? Where's my SSL certificate, right? All of that stuff. And sometimes the answer is, it just takes time. We're getting our website deployed across quite literally the entire world right now, right? We're getting the entire internet to know that when we go to ourdomainname.com, that our website is going to be over here and trying to get that set up. So imagine if like the post office overnight or in a couple minutes just processed your mail forwarding request, right? There's no way it would happen that quickly. When you move, it takes them time to tell the post office to do all of that. Same thing goes for the DNS system, right? Sometimes it just takes time to post and process. Anything else from last week that stood out? Anything that was a light bulb moment or a big victory for you guys? Anything from last week that you still don't really get and maybe we should touch on during the next project week?
Watch videos.
No? All right. We are going to dive into JavaScript this week. So this is an exciting opportunity to kind of reset. Doesn't matter where your HTML skills are at. We will get back to HTML in like 2 weeks to 3 weeks from now, but we're going headfirst into JavaScript. And I have learned from the first couple weeks, we are going to go over concepts first, right? So we are going to go through slides. We're going to talk about definitions and terms. We're going to define them. And then we're also going to adjust the pacing a little bit, right? So every time I go to share my screen and I'm doing something, I'm going to kind of label that as don't follow along yet, but then also make sure that there is time throughout class, not just at the end of class, to catch up, to follow along with me, right? So call me out on that. If I am bad and I start sharing my screen and start going, don't be afraid to interrupt me and go, whoa, whoa, whoa. Or should we be following along with you here? Or, you know, are we just going along for the ride? Exactly. Give me the speeding ticket. Let me know. We're gonna cover a couple things and then we're gonna try it in an exercise and we're gonna couple another couple things and go that way. With all of that said, some logistics that we need to get out of the way. If everyone could head to Slack, if you have not already voted, there are 3 polls up there. One is about being in person or going fully virtual. The other one is about OpenHack and canceling class tomorrow. And then the last one is for office hours. So on Wednesday's class, I will close the office hours poll and let you know whatever the highest vote is. But we're at this point basically where upstate New York is still in the red zone. We're worried about, any spread. So we want to give you guys the option of continuing to do classes in person, or if you guys feel like going fully virtual would be better for the class, want to open that option up for everyone. The other thing is OpenHack is tomorrow. I am suggesting that you guys cancel class so that you can attend OpenHack. It's a really great opportunity, and it's pretty much the reason that I have this job today. So OpenHack is an awesome opportunity to network. If you have not voted in that yet, please do. And then the final thing is for office hours. I know Nathan had them 9 a.m. on Saturday. I tried to open a couple slots in there. I know how much Nicole loves having them at 5:30 on Fridays, but wanted to give everyone the option there of voting and picking whatever time. So those are the three logistics that I just wanted to touch on quickly. Any questions on any of that? Awesome. We will make decisions on that. It looks like the whole class, or the vast majority of the class, is leaning towards wanting to go to OpenHack. So let's make the executive decision now that we will not have class tomorrow. However, I will be creating, I meant to look into this earlier. I'm pretty sure Canvas has a feature for like a discussion board. And so I will probably create an assignment in the discussion board that's basically like, what was your OpenHack experience like? So I will create that discussion board. The idea there is that everyone can kind of see what they got out of it and what they liked or what they didn't like. So I will create that discussion board, and that will be due probably on Wednesday before class. But I will update you guys on that. I want to look into that during the break. So that will be your only homework assignment that is due on Wednesday about OpenHack attendance. It is in person, so if you guys are not feeling comfortable going to an in-person event, it is not required that you attend it tomorrow, but just something to think about in the back of your head, because it is an awesome opportunity to socialize and meet other developers, and I think it's really crucial for career growth. Okay, with all of that said, let's do a quick overview of what we're learning today. Maybe. So I know this looks like a lot, but what we are going to do is we're going to do a brief overview on JavaScript, what it is and what those terms are. We are then going to install Node. Quick check, did you guys all install Brew last week with Nathan, or are some of you don't have it? I'm getting nods there. Okay, that's a good sign. So we're going to install Node if you haven't installed Node already. And then we're going to start at the very beginning of JavaScript, right? We're going to start talking about how do we see our code running? How do we get data types working? What are our different data type options? What are expressions, and how does the computer actually evaluate our code? How do we store some data in the computer for it to be able to process it? Then we're going to talk about how those data types kind of interact with each other. And then we're going to get into the core fun of JavaScript, which is objects, right? How do we store key value pairs? How do we store data and keep it kind of associated together? We're going to touch on what a parameter is. And go into getting command line prompts working. We're going to touch on conditional if statements, and then we're going to do comments. Now that is a whole heck of a lot to cover, but the good news is that we're going to go through this step by step, and you're going to not only see the general concept in the slides, but you're also going to see us applying it in VS Code. With that said, 3 homework assignments for tonight. None of them are due until Sunday, but I did try and forecast out all of the free code camp assignments. I'm sorry that I didn't get them posted earlier, but I do have them all forecasted out, not only in these daily outlines, but also in Canvas. So if you are curious about what topics in free code camp and exercises are going to best help you, that should be in assignment 30 and in 32. And I think I even created one more, although I have to double check on that. So those are the free code camp assignments. If you would like to work ahead on free code camp, that's completely fine. Those are not going to be due until Sunday, but you will find everything that is assigned in free code camp. 95% of it should either be a review of what we're about to cover or a review of what we covered the previous couple days. We are going to have a homework assignment due for the calculator. That's what our goal is to get to by the end of the night. But most important thing that we're getting here is the concept, right? So if at any point you don't understand why we are doing something or how something works, that is your speeding ticket. That is to, when you say Max, go over that again, define that another way. Can you show me different code that's using it? Whatever it takes, let me know when those concepts are not sinking in, when it is not clicking. And maybe free code camp will make it click a little bit better, but the most important thing here is understanding. Okay, any questions? All right. I'm going to dive right into the slides. This is the week 7, day 1 intro to JavaScript slides. I would suggest that you guys all pull this up yourself. Let me make sure I actually shared this. Yes, I did. I would recommend that everyone pull this up because there will be some code in there that you may want to copy and paste or be able to zoom in on or whatever. So let's dive in. Oh, and I already have a mistake. See, I'm missed 1 week of teaching and my whole numbering system is off. Okay, so JavaScript, what is it? So we've covered HTML, right? But we never really labeled what HTML is. HTML falls into a category of markup, right? Basically, how do we go through and tag our content and mark it up so that when we want to style it or we want to do something interactive on it, we're able to access not only the content itself, but the container that it's in. And so that's why it's called a markup language, because we're essentially taking our content and marking it up with HTML around it in order for us to manipulate it. Well, and we've also touched on CSS, right? That's kind of been your second language that you've been exposed to, is that's the style sheet language, right? That all CSS does is adjust styling. Well, now we're getting into JavaScript. So JavaScript is a scripting programming language that was initially built to run across all the different web browsers. So this goes all the way back till 1995. And the person who created the Netscape web browser realized that HTML and CSS were not enough. We needed some kind of interactivity. And so JavaScript was born. One side note, Java and JavaScript are not the same language. However, they can be used to create similar outputs. Java will not run in the browser, but JavaScript does. Java can be used server-side. JavaScript can be used both in the browser and server-side. So our intro into JavaScript is actually going to be on the server. We're actually going to be executing our code through Node. And over time, we will inch our way towards getting it to execute in the browser and making things interactive over there. You may hear JavaScript called ECMAScript or ES. That is some weird trademarking name where JavaScript, everyone calls JavaScript JavaScript, but the actual technical name of the specification that runs all of the JavaScript syntax is called ECMAScript, or sometimes abbreviated to ES. So if you see people talking about different versions of JavaScript, or they're saying, hey, this function only came out in ES6 or ES7 or ES 2015, that ES is standing for ECMAScript, and what they really mean there is JavaScript. So just want to throw that out there so you have it in the back of your head. And we touch on Java versus JavaScript because it's very easy to think, oh, they wrote Java here. They probably just meant JavaScript. Two completely separate languages that are widely used in the industry. So important to identify those two apart. And built in 95, dominant programming language for pretty much all browsers. Other than HTML and CSS, JavaScript is pretty much the only thing guaranteed to work in every browser, which is one of the reasons why it's so popular. Any questions on that? Any surprises there? Okay, so let's dive into things in JavaScript. So 3 things going in here. And Brew isn't really JavaScript related, but I wanted to touch on it. Node is a JavaScript runtime environment. What does a runtime environment mean? It basically means Node is the thing responsible for executing your code, for getting the computer to take your code and actually run it and produce some output for it. It's usually used to build server-side apps, but it can also be used in the command line and a couple other places as well. Node is what we will be using to execute our code before we switch over to the browser. Most people try to teach JavaScript right in the browser first because that's what you guys have exposure to. But I find it actually easier to learn computer science fundamentals by being able to just run your code without the browser kind of getting in your way and demanding to be a UI. So that's why we're doing it in Node first, is so that we can just run our code without anything in the way. And then we will work our way back to the HTML and CSS that we all are knowing and loving and growing in. So NPM stands for Node Package Manager. It is a repository of packages. If you want to think about packages as extensions or plugins or mini applications or kind of related to the framework, that are basically some JavaScript that someone else has already written. And it's code that we can use in our own code, right? So as developers, we're constantly standing on the shoulders of giants. And that's exactly what we're doing with packages and other frameworks. We're basically using code that someone else has already written for us, so we don't have to write it all out ourselves. And then last thing is Brew. I know Nathan touched on this a little bit. It's similar to NPM in that it is a package repository, but instead of being a repository of all of these JavaScript packages, it is instead a repository for all these packages that we can use on our Mac. Brew is one of the, I want to say, top 5 reasons that developers tend to use Mac instead of PC. Because Brew is based off of Linux, it just makes it so much easier to install these packages. So if we don't have Brew, if we don't have Node installed yet, I'm going to show you how easy it is to get that working. Any questions?
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, let me. Okay. When you say that Node and Brew are repositories of packages, are they like a collection in one place of all the Node packages, and one place is all the Brew packages?
Yes. So you can add different sources into Brew. So Brew maintains a list of like a couple hundred or a couple thousand official commands that work out of the box, right? So Brew install Node is just going to install Node for you because the Brew repository works with Node and makes sure that Node is the official version. There are times that you would add additional sources into Brew. So you may say, hey, Brew, you don't know how to install this natively, but if I give you this list, you'll be able to install all of these different packages as well. I don't think there is a way to do that in Node. I'm probably wrong about that. But Node NPM is a list of all of these different packages. And we're going to touch on the NPM website to show you how you get an idea of what packages are available and which ones you're working with. So yes, both NPM and Brew maintain an official list of what packages are available.
So when you say Brew install some application name, it goes to the Brew repository out on a server somewhere, and that,
yep.
Okay.
And it looks up, hey, you want to install Node, let's go find the latest release of Node that's officially maintained. So whenever Node comes out with an update, they go over to Brew and they say, hey, Brew, here's our new update. here's this version number, here's where you download it, and this is what to run when you install it. And that's how Brew works. Same with NPM. We're going to be using different node packages. And NPM is just that central repository. So when we say NPM install, just like we say Brew install, it's going to go out to NPM. It's going to look through the list. It's going to find whatever package we're going to install. And it's going to take care of the downloading and getting all of that code on our computer. And we are going to be using NPM tonight, so you'll be able to get a chance to see how that works. Other questions? Okie doke. So if you do not have Brew installed, I would recommend that you pop open the slides. Here are the 3 different commands that you need to run to install Brew. If you already have Brew installed, you can go right to this step. So what I'm going to do is, and this is a follow along with me, we're going to pause and make sure everyone can do this step. We're going to just open a new terminal. If you don't have terminal in your dock, you can either go to your Finder and your applications, and all the way down at the bottom here, there should be one that says Utilities. And in Utilities, you can scroll down and Terminal will be here. The shortcut that I use all the time is if you hit Command Space, you can just type in the word Terminal and hit Enter, and that's going to pop it open for you. So with Terminal open, we are going to issue 3 simple words: Brew install node. And we're going to hit Enter on that, and it's going to take a minute, and it should start downloading things once we Brew install node.
Max, if you already had it installed and you do Brew install, will it just overwrite it, or?
It would overwrite it and update it, and that is not a bad thing.
Okay.
And it's probably going to take you guys a minute because it's got to download it. Mine just ran super fast because it already had a copy of it downloaded. But I'm going to pause here, pop open the poll.
It's a piece of drawing paper, okay?
Mine is done.
Okay.
Sure, I did it.
Hopefully we didn't lose anyone this early on, but.
Okay, Max, did I miss something? I went to my terminal. I had to reset it, by the way, because there's some old stuff in there, but I did Brew install node and it said command not found.
Okay, so you missed the step of installing Brew. If you go to the slides and look at slide number 5, there are 3 commands that you can run there to install Brew. The first one, you should just be able to copy and paste it. The second one, you need to replace your username here with whatever your Mac username is.
Okay.
And then this third one, you should be able to copy and paste as well. Very, very, very important that we get Brew and Node working in today's class, because if we don't get Node installed today, you won't be able to test any of your code. So very important that we follow along here, because you won't know if your code is working unless you have Node installed.
Okay.
How do I?
Oh, wait. Quick thing, last thing. Max, can you hear me fine when I'm talking? Because I am, like I said, I am on a hotspot right now, just because of where I'm at. But you can hear, okay, nothing's choppy or anything, or?
Nope, you're completely fine. You're coming in crystal clear.
Okay, gotcha. All right, thank you.
Someone else.
I just had a quick question, Max. I'm sorry, I'm at work. How do you, because my Brew still, or my terminal also still has like old stuff. So do I just close it out, or what's the command where I can start fresh on terminal?
Yep. You can just type in the word clear, CLEAR, and hit enter, and that will clear everything out for you.
And then after that, I'm just Brew install node.
Yes.
Okay.
And if you get Brew command not found or something along those lines, you do have to follow these 3 steps.
I did install Brew last time, so I don't have to reinstall it again?
Correct. If you have Brew installed, you should be able to just run that Brew install node.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
So are we pasting the first command line and then the second one and then the third?
If you have Brew installed, all you need to do is run this brew install node.
Yeah, no, I'm saying if installing Brew.
If you're installing Brew, you're
Yeah.
going to copy and paste this first one and hit enter.
Yeah.
You're then going to copy this one, but before or right after you paste it, before you hit enter, you need to replace your username here with your actual Mac username. And then you can copy and paste this last one.
What number slide is that?
Number 5.
Okay.
That's only if you don't have Brew installed.
Max,
Yes.
you said if you get the thing that says command not found, what are you supposed to do?
The 5 steps in slide 5.
To be able to.
I'm sorry,
Okay,
the
thank
3
you.
steps in slide 5.
No.
Okay.
After that's installed, just wait.
Yep. Once you got it installed, you are good to go.
I mean, what does it do? I guess I don't understand it installing Brew, but
Okay, Max, I have a question.
Yep.
pieces of it.
When it's asking for a password, where are you entering the password at? Like for the first step under install Brew?
Yeah, so when you type a password in the terminal, it doesn't look like anything is typing. It actually is. So if you clear out, just hold in the delete key, that's going to clear out anything that you've typed in. Type in your Mac password and hit enter. And even though it looks like it's not typing, as long as you've got your password typed in there correctly and hit enter, it should let you through to the next step.
Okay. It did, and then it just says press return enter to continue or any other key to abort.
So go ahead and hit enter there, and that should get the install started.
All right, thank you.
No problem.
Hey Max, I keep getting this thing that say D quote CMD SUDST.
Make sure you've got the front and the back of that command copied. If you miss a closing or opening quote, that could be a problem. If you're still having a problem, go ahead and share your screen and we can take a look.
Is it just showing for you?
All right, I'm gonna share my screen because sorry.
So a good reminder for everyone, if you ever get stuck somewhere in the terminal and you just like want to clear it out and get to a new command line, you can hit Control C and actually control there, not command. And that will get you back out to a new line. So what you want to do is if you go back to the slides,
I think when you did that,
it does look like you've got everything copied there correctly. So let's go back to terminal, hit Command V there.
Restarted it, should.
I'm sorry, Command V. Okay.
And then enter.
Whatever says there, just.
Okay, and now it's asking you for your Mac password. So go ahead and type that in. It's not going to show up as it's typing, but it is taking your input.
Try doing it.
Oh, okay.
Try doing it for you. Hopefully it won't take that long.
Okay, and then go ahead and hit enter there, and that's going to start the install of Brew.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm doing this right.
Yep.
Look, so when to install node, you have to put brew node.
Brew install node.
Install. Okay, I didn't know if it was regular words or not. No spaces, no nothing.
Yes, brew space install space node.
Okay. So Larry had a question about year 3 installing brew.
Yeah.
You have 3 different ways to do it.
Well, 3 steps. They're not 3 ways. That's all part of the requirement to install it.
You need to do all 3 steps then.
Yes. So this step is basically saying download. Oh, thank you. So this first step is basically saying download node. Curl is a library that's built into the Mac. And it's basically saying, hey, go ahead and download this. And then the bash part of it is saying execute it. So this curl is saying download. This is saying make sure that the download is secure. And then this is saying execute it at all. This is all very low level. You don't need to understand what these commands are doing, but just sharing in case you guys are interested. This next command is basically saying, hey, tell my terminal that Brew is now a new command that's available to it. And then this last one is saying, now that you've told the terminal that brew is a new command that's available, go ahead and basically refresh the terminal so I can use that command in the future. So this first one is basically the combo download and install. This one is telling the terminal that a new command is available. And this last one is refreshing your terminal. So it knows that when you say the brew command, it knows where to go and where brew is installed. But if you've run brew install node and you've gotten through and node said it was installed successfully, then you do not need to do these 3 steps. Okay, super important that we have node installed for everyone. So anyone have a question, or is anyone stuck anywhere?
Just a quick question, Max. After putting the 3 things into download it, do I have to put that first thing that you told us to put in, or no?
Yes,
Okay.
You're going to want to do the brew install node afterwards.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
After I did the brew install node, how do you know when it's complete?
It should say something along the lines of,
Running brew cleanup node?
Yeah, that sounds right.
So give you your prompt back too, so we'll call whatever dash,
Amazon?
huh?
At Amazon.
Whatever it is, it'll give you.
Why is it like that?
Danielle, do you have a question?
Yes, okay, so are we doing each of those one by one or
Yes,
all? at
one by
once?
one.
Okay, so right now on my screen, it's still showing that it says downloading command line tools for Xcode. So I just wait until all of that's downloaded, then put in the next link or.
Correct. Those command line tools are huge, and so they will take a while to download. Do not panic. That step just takes a while to run.
Okay, thank you.
Looking at mine, mine says something weird. What does yours say?
Mine doesn't say anything right now.
Mine says don't loosen it, desktop.
Yeah, I'm still downloading command line tools.
Okay, yeah, that might be a minute. Yeah.
Here.
Stephanie,
Max.
question? Oh,
We determined it was something to do with Wi-Fi. here.
whoever wants to go next is fine.
Mine say, this is Strange, mine say disable this behavior, running brew cleanup node. Disable this behavior, blah, blah, blah. But I think is it done, or do I need to do another command?
Let's just go ahead and share your screen and we'll confirm.
Okay.
Okay. Now I'm getting. It's installed.
This is not bad, bro.
Sanjay, you're on mute. I don't know if you wanted to share your screen just to confirm. Oh, okay, perfect. That is the last step. So if you see down at the bottom where it says running brew cleanup node, you've made it and your install is done and you're caught up.
Great.
So that is what the final screen should look like. Stephanie, you have a question?
Actually, I'm gonna pass my question off because I had the same as Stranjay, but my screen looks different than Zach's. So, yeah.
Go ahead and share your screen, and then Zach, I'm coming to you next to confirm. It's possible that everyone has a slightly different screen. So you've made it to the end. That's the screen that you should have. So you've got Node installed. One way to test is if you type in node space -v, it should print out a Node version. Mine happens to be v18.0.0. So if you type node space -v, you should, and hit enter, you should be able to get a Node version back. If you don't have a Node version back, that means you don't have Node installed yet. But if you're downloading the command line tools or whatever, it may still be running.
Max?
Yep.
Yeah, so everything's working for me, like connection wise. I'm just trying to open up the module. I have it open actually. I'm trying to open the link for the intro to JavaScript, and for some reason that just keeps freezing on me. So I think I have like an idea of what to do if I just follow along with everything. but yeah.
Yeah, Corey, I'm gonna Slack you a copy of the slides as a PDF.
All right. I'm
And
in like now because I'm like in a dorm right now, and we're just like I told you, the internet in here is garbage. So
I just Slacked you the slides as a PDF. See if you can get those open. That might be a little easier.
okay.
Max, well, last week on the class, my brew wasn't working and I had to completely
Sorry, Wayne, your mic is really low.
my brew, I had to completely uninstall it and reinstall it because it wasn't working.
Okay, and is it working now, or are you still getting an error message?
No, it's working now. So maybe that's what he needs to do.
No, I think everyone's just at a spot where it's either downloading or they've got it installed.
Okay, that's good.
All right, Max, it's me again.
Yep.
I think I arrived to the point where it's saying next steps, run these 2 commands in your terminal to add it to my path. Is that one thing?
Yeah, those 2 commands are the second and third bullet point in the slides. So you can either copy and paste them right from those next steps, or you can copy and paste them from my slides. Either one is fine.
Okay.
And don't forget to put your username in.
Yes.
Thank you.
If you're doing it from the Brew instructions, your username should already be in there. But Larry, excellent point of if you're copying and pasting it from my slides, that second bullet point, your username here needs to be deleted out and you need to put your name in instead. Danielle, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm at that exact point that she's at, but I don't see anything happening once I entered it in.
Go ahead and share your screen.
Okay.
Okay, so that's fine. That second command has already run. So whenever you see a new line, that means the line above it has finished running. So you've got both of those down. So now if you just do a brew install node, it should install it for you.
Okay, thank you.
Zach, if you run node space -v and hit enter, do you get a node version back?
Yeah, it says v18.0.0.
You're caught up. You've got everything done.
Cool, thank you.
And Danielle, it looks like you're on the right track. This shouldn't take as long to run, but as soon as it's done downloading all of this, you should have node.
All right, thank you. I'll stop sharing.
I beat you to it.
Okay, Max. I got a different error from everybody else.
Oh, great. Go ahead. Can you share your screen?
I'm getting there. Hold on.
Okay.
Give me a minute.
Go ahead and run brew link node.
I did. That's what it gave me. Oh, Brew? Oh, what do you mean?
Oh,
Is this we need to fix it like tomorrow or?
Try that second one to force link and overwrite all conflicting files. Brew link -- overwrite node. I think you installed node with sudo. And that's a big no-no.
Well, that could be from whenever.
Yeah, do a sudo in front of that last command. No one use sudo in your terminal. Bad things happen when you use sudo. Unless you understand what you're doing with sudo, you should not be using the sudo command.
And I'll almost guarantee that that's what we did, because there was a bunch of us in C1 and they were like, oh, just do it this way.
Yeah, we're teaching the right way in cohort 3.
Thanks. Yeah, Nate said that too.
Don't use sudo.
All the time.
You do?
Not all the time, by the way.
Oh, and now Homebrew won't even let you issue the command with sudo because you shouldn't be using it.
Okay, how do I uninstall it? Just uninstall?
Brew uninstall node. And if that doesn't work, Karen, we're gonna have to. You can try a brew install node, but I think your entire brew is screwed up because it got installed with sudo.
So can you uninstall?
Sudo?
Well, try a brew install node now and see what happens.
Already downloaded this.
Oh, that's promising. Now do a node space -v.
Node. No?
Yeah, I don't, Karen, we're gonna have to fix that outside of class.
That's fine.
You've got some version, Brew isn't able to link because there's some sudo issue there, and that's going to be a headache to pull apart. All right, anyone else for questions? Are we?
Yeah, Max, can you like guide? I just got everything downloaded.
Okay, go ahead and share your screen.
Okay.
Everybody said that at the same time.
All right, let me see your terminal, see where you're at.
Okay, so here's the terminal.
Okay, so try running the command brew install node and seeing if you have brew installed.
Okay. Yeah, I went to by the way, I went to this on GitHub. It just opened this up right here.
Yeah, you shouldn't be opening the link. That's just to copy and paste that whole command. But let's see if you have brew installed first. So just do a brew install node. Okay, so you don't. So copy that entire first bullet point without the bullet itself.
Okay. Quotes included.
Yep, you got it. Okay. And then paste and enter.
Okay.
What?
Yeah.
Cannot resolve host. Oh, you know what it is? There's a space in there that shouldn't be in there. If you hit the up arrow, that's going to automatically make it fill in your last command, which is a good tip for everyone. And then use the left arrow key to go over to the space before the period sh.
Okay.
And hit delete once. Oh, nope. Go back over to the right.
Okay.
By one. And now, okay, now hit enter on that. Okay, and go ahead and enter your password.
Checking for sudo. Was that always there? I said checking for sudo. Is that always there? What's sudo?
For sudo, yes. Sudo, it stands for super user do, which is basically saying run this command as an admin.
Okay.
And then go ahead and hit enter on that, Corey.
Okay.
Super user do. And that's basically saying run this command as an admin. So unless you really want to run something as an administrator, you shouldn't be trying to do that. This is just downloading, and it's doing that command line tools, which is going to take a while, especially if you're on a slow internet connection. So your next three steps are going to be copy, paste, and edit that that second bullet point, and just change out your username here for your username of the Mac. Then you're going to copy and paste the eval and just hit enter on that. And then finally, you're going to do the brew install node from the previous slide.
You spelled my name wrong.
Okay. All right. So just add this to there.
Yep, you can't run it yet until that other one is done installing.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Is the majority of everyone who downloaded it today still waiting for the?
No, I think everyone has it installed.
Okay.
Does anyone
so am I like
else
the only one without it installed? Or?
Yeah.
Well, remember you had the same problem in the class when we did download it. So.
For me, are you telling me or?
Yeah. So I kind of remember that you were the only one that didn't get it.
Was I there for class that day or?
You were there, but I think you had a problem with your computer. That's why we couldn't get you to download it from before.
Oh, okay, got you. All right, yeah.
All right,
My bad, I'm
so
kind of out the loop.
give me a thumbs up if we've got Node installed and we can do a Node-V and everything's good. Okay, I know this is painfully slow, but it is so important to be able to run Node on your computer for the next entire 3 weeks. So we are at 7 o'clock. It is break time. So let's take a break, be back at 7:20. Corey, I will stick around for a couple minutes in case you or anyone else have questions. Otherwise, I'll be back at 7:20.
Okay.
I'm hungry.
Sorry, I didn't recognize the time. I would have told you if you got it installed, you can go ahead and go on break. But go ahead on break. See you at 7:20. A one-on-one with me. My one-on-one link is in Canvas. It's up at the top of the general links. Just schedule a one-on-one with me if you're still having problems.
You definitely want to do it because once you get through all of this, eventually when you get to the point with Joey, right, he's doing React, yes? Max?
No, I am.
You're doing React?
Yeah, Joey was not available.
Oh, okay. Either way, you're still going to want to be able to run everything. So make sure that like you just install it and do it.
If I stop by Common Space tomorrow morning, it's literally right behind me. So if I just get up and do that early in the morning, you guys think if I just follow the class lecture, I should be able to get everything in?
So we're gonna dive back in to next concept, and we're not gonna get very far here before we dive in and actually test out our node and get our code working. So first concept that we need to expose you to is the console, right? Because all of our code can run, but when our code is running, it needs to be told, hey, I would like to be able to see the output of that code, because otherwise the computer is just going to run the code and not tell you as a developer anything that it's doing. So console.log is a command that you're going to love, you're going to learn to hate, because when your code isn't working, you're going to need to put in more and more console logs. Console log is the point, it is basically the computer being able to tell you what it's doing while it's running all of your code, right? So console log is going to be the output of your JavaScript code. When we're using Node, our JavaScript will print out in the terminal. The results of what we're saying to console log will come out in the terminal. Once we get to running our JavaScript in the browser, that will be in the DevTools, and there is another tab called console. We will get to that later, but right now we're going to focus all of our JavaScript running in Node and in the terminal. So these are the steps that we are going to go through. This is going to be this is a follow along. You should be doing this with me. This is not a just watch me do it. However, if you get lost at any step, go to this slide, and this slide is literally breaking down everything that I'm about to go through. So
Max, week 7, day 1.
Week 7, day 1.
Wait a minute. Wait.
Week
okay.
7, day 1. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good catch.
Okay, so I am going to go to my desktop. I'm going to go to my code. I'm going to create a new folder called W7. I'm going to open that. I'm going to create a new folder in there. I'm going to call it day 1. Hopefully this is very familiar. We're going to open VS Code. We are going to go to File, Open Folder. We're going to go to week 7. We're going to go to day 1. We're going to hit Open. We're going to create a new file. And instead of your index or style, we are going to say playground.js. The .js is the most important part of all of this, and make sure you do not have a space in whatever file name you use. So I'm calling mine playground.js. Now, everyone's going to get lost here. So most important thing, we're going to right click on playground.js and hit open an integrated terminal. And what that's going to do is give us a terminal down here at the bottom of the screen that is in the same working directory of that file. So if you go back all the way to what was that, week 1, where we did CD and PWD and all of that, if I run a PWD here, it is going to print out, hey, you're in your my code folder in week 7 in day 1. And if we run an LS there, it's going to show me my playground.js file. So this terminal that we're working with in VS Code is the exact same terminal that we were just using over here with our commands. The only difference is that VS Code CD'd our working directory. It changed the directory down into our week 7 day 1 folder. Okay, 2 more steps, and then we're going to pause and make sure everyone's following along. I'm going to.
How'd you open that in terminal one more time?
Right click on playground.js and hit open an integrated terminal.
Okay.
Okay, from there, I am going to add a command, and I'm going to say console.log, and then I'm going to put in parentheses. That's Shift-9. We're not doing square brackets. We're not doing curly brackets, regular old curved parentheses, and we are going to add in the number 5. Pick whatever number you want. Pick a number, any number. Then we are going to make sure we save it. So Command S is always going to be your friend. If you see that little white dot up at the top, that means you have not saved your file. So when we go to execute this file, it's going to execute the last saved version of it. So if we don't hit save, it's not going to execute that code. So we're going to hit save. Now my little dot's gone away, and it's just a closeout icon. Down in my terminal, I'm going to issue the command node space. And when you start typing in playground, you could type in playground.js on your own, but autocomplete will work here. So think all the way back to our intro to terminal lesson. If you type in the word play and hit tab, it's going to automatically complete playground.js for you. So I'm going to hit enter there, and I should see a 5 in my terminal. If you get to a 5, you've completed this step.
Okay, so I just type in exactly what you have here under.
Yep.
With the parentheses included.
Yep.
Okay.
And when you run node playground.js, you should see whatever number you have typed in here. And if you want to play with it, you can change this number and go back down here and change and just hit up, because the up key is going to re-enter your last command and then enter again, and that's going to make it execute. We are going to be hitting up, enter over 1,000 times before we get to the end of this program. So up and enter to rerun your last command is going to be your friend.
Do you mean really like control up or just?
Just the arrow key. When you're in the terminal, just hit the up key, and that's going to give you your last command, and then enter is going to make it run.
Okay, how'd you get the light bulb?
Don't worry about that. I think I just have the number 5 highlighted.
Oh, okay.
Was not intentional. Okay, I'm going to restart the poll, make sure everyone is following along.
Max?
Yep.
So I'm following along. I was able to do the file. I've got everything created. I tried to do the terminal. I did node playground.js, and it's saying like command not found. So I'm here. I'm just not fully here because I haven't gotten like past that part.
Okay. Did you get Brew installed?
Yes, I've got Brew installed.
Okay. So in your terminal, doesn't matter which one, just type in Brew install node with spaces in between the words.
Yep, I think, let me see, it looks like it had already, yeah, it says running Brew cleanup node. What does that mean? I don't know.
Okay, and now try and do your node space playground.js.
Okay. Okay, so when I did Brew install node, it's saying unable to access, permission denied.
I was talking to Doug.
Okay, you're gonna have to schedule a one-on-one with me or hang around at the end of class, and we'll get you straightened out.
Okay.
Go to bank, but it works.
So,
now.
Shranjay, you're only running LS if you want to see the files in the directory. So this is a moment where it's super important to take a step back, and this isn't just about following along. It's figuring out why we're doing that, right? So I did PWD to show you, hey, when we open this terminal, the integrated terminal, it's automatically moving our terminal to the directory that we're working on. And to prove that we're in that directory, when we run ls, which stands for list, it's listing out the files in that directory. So these two commands aren't actually changing anything. They're just giving us context as a developer of where are we at in the terminal? What's our working directory? What files do we have access to? So those two are not required steps. They're just showing you, hey, this terminal is just like the other terminal we were working in, and we can use all of those same commands, the PWD, the ls, the cd, the ... all of that stuff. Okay, any questions before we move on?
So the fact that yours has playground JS like 3 more times, that's not.
That's just because I keep rerunning it.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Okay.
And you hand type the 5 into the.
I did, yes.
Okay, so after I put the 5 in the parentheses and I run node playground.js, should I also see a 5?
You should. Did you remember to save your file?
Am I saving 5 first? I'm sorry. Oh, okay, yes, I'm good.
Okay. Any other questions before we move on here?
Yeah, I had a question.
Yep.
The node playground.js.
Yes.
Is node a command that's, since we have node installed, is available, or is it because we have node open and running? You have to do it before you can type node in the name of the file.
It was the former, not the latter. Node isn't running anywhere. Node is a command that we have installed that is now, because we've installed it through Brew, that node command is available everywhere. And so whenever we want, we can now say node space whatever JavaScript file that we want, and it's going to literally start at the top of that file and execute the JavaScript all the way down. And unless there is some command telling it to stay open or stay running, which is what we would do for a web server, it's going to finish executing that file and stop running Node. So Node is quite literally only running for a couple milliseconds here because we have not told it to stay running. Sanjay, go ahead and share your screen.
I think someone's sharing right now, but it's not allowing me to.
That would be me. Sorry. Go ahead.
Things like that. Seems like H top code. That's normal Brew info. Or was that from before?
From before.
So I do clear, just do clear.
Yeah.
Okay, you have playground spelled wrong in your file name, and that's why it can't find that file. Look at how you have playground spelled right here.
Earlier command.
So you probably want to right click on that.
Oh my God, I'm cracking up. Okay.
Yep, just right click on that and rename, and then the command should work.
Playground.
So you could, if you do just write node space playground.js.
Node. Got space. And you do tab, it'll do it for you.
Right.
Got it.
All right, hit enter there. Click in your terminal down at the bottom and hit the up key and then enter.
Yes, command.
And there's your 5. Okay.
The elevator.
Thanks.
Last chance for moving on. Okay, so there are lots of different data types in JavaScript. There are numbers, which we just saw for the first time, right? We just typed in the number 5 and it just automatically worked. There are Booleans. That is when we say true or false, right? That's a binary value. Either it's true or false. We type those in straight up. Then we also have strings. Strings are any letter, any combination of letters, right? Any word that we're typing in, anything that is a value, a sentence, a word, anything like that, we're going to put in quotes. Null and undefined are basically what happens when you initialize a variable, which we're going to get to in a second, and then don't set a value to it. So null and undefined, just throwing them out there right now. So you know if you ever get a cannot read property of undefined, that's basically trying to tell you, hey, we're accessing a variable here and that variable doesn't have a value. Then there are two other types of data. There are objects. An object store key and a value with them. So for instance, you could have a car object that would have a make, a model, and a year associated with it. We'll get back to those in a second. And then the last thing is an array. An array is an ordered list of values, right? So just keep these in the back of your head. These are all the different kinds of data, and different programming languages will call these different things. In JavaScript, it's called an object. In Python, it's called a dictionary. So the concepts are the same, but the name of the terms may be different. Same goes for numbers, right? In JavaScript, they just call them numbers. In Python, it might be called a float or a double or an integer, right? All different kinds, different names, but all expressing the same thing of the computer needs to know what kind of data we're trying to store here. And based off of that, that's how it's going to do the memory allocation and all of that fun stuff under the hood. So what we're going to do is we're going to just play around with some expressions here. So I'm going to go back to my VS Code, and in my console log 5, I'm going to just type in the plus icon and then type in 10. And because we're not using any quotes here, it knows, hey, that's a number that you're trying to pass into us. It's not a true or a false. It's not a string of letters. It's just two numbers. So when I save that file, again, make sure you don't have a dot up here. Make sure you hit Command S. When I go back down to my terminal, I can hit the up key and enter, and it's going to print out 15 on me. So it may seem obvious, but it's important to break down how the computer is doing this. What it's doing is it's looking at this entire console log, and it's saying, I don't care about anything else. I need to look at this 5 and this 10. So before the computer even runs console log, it's going to say 5 plus 10 is an expression. We need to evaluate that together. So what the computer is doing behind the scenes here is it is combining it down to that 15. Then it says, okay, I'm still on the same line of code. What do you want me to do with this 15? Oh, console.log. That is built in. I need to output that. The language knows console log. It knows how to do that. And that's what's putting the 15 out in the log. Okay, how are we feeling? Do we have 15 showing up in our console here?
Yes.
You do that one more time?
Yeah, one more time, please.
So just all I did is up here at the top, I added plus 10 inside the parentheses.
Mine says that, but it's not showing in the bottom how yours.
Did you hit enter or save after that? Oh.
Command S.
Yeah.
And then down here, if you hit up and enter, you should get 15. If not, let me know.
Yeah, I got it. All right.
Stephanie, you good?
Yes, I got it to work now. Thank you.
So
have to remember to save. That is going to be the death of all of us. And you're going to see me do it a gazillion times as well. Have to remember to save. Go ahead, Christy.
So each time, because I've been typing in Node. So each time after we change up in the top, we just hit that up arrow, and that's just going to keep repeating the Node.js and get, okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
And if that's starting to bother you, you can type in the word clear and hit enter, and that will clear it all out on you. Okay.
So that I'm still stuck at the first part. It's not going through for me.
All right, go ahead and share your screen. No Strange decaf tea this time. I had a latte this morning and or a latte at like 4:30, and I don't regret it now. I'm sure I will tonight. Okay, so you missed a step here, Wayne. Go back to VS Code. Right click on playground.js. And open an integrated terminal. Now click back into your file and hit Command S because you haven't saved it. Nope, nope, nope. In your VS Code, yep, okay. Now down at that bottom terminal, click into that bottom terminal that just opened up in VS Code and type in node space playground.js. And hit enter on that. And now that you've got your 15.
Oh.
Okay. Anyone else for questions? Okay, so
Shortcut and jump between the terminal and the regular place we're typing it.
Tab.
What's that?
Tab.
Tab is going to do your autocomplete for you.
Like, so if I'm, you know, we type the code at, and then to jump down to the terminal, is there a keyboard shortcut to do that, to jump back and forth?
I was thinking screen.
Not that I know of. I always click. I bet you there is. I just don't happen to know what it is.
I'll find it back.
Okay, sorry.
No problem.
There's a new terminal. I don't know that there. Yeah, if you find it, let us know. Okay, so we're gonna play with another data value here. So we're gonna console log out a string. And so we're going to say console.log. And now because we're not console logging out a number, we need to tell it, hey, what I'm sending you are just words. So we're going to use double quotes. That's a shift and a key next to return. And then we're going to type out hello world.
It's going between them.
You said control or command?
Oh, control, yeah.
Oh.
Unless it's.
Oh no, that is, I'm not editing again though.
Okay, so what we should see here is we've got our hello world spelled correctly, and we've got our 2 lines in here. So I'm going to hit Command S. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to hit the up arrow until I see my node playground.js, and I'm going to hit enter. And now we should not only have our 15 coming out, but we should have our hello world as well.
Really, for me, control that.
Yeah, control back to.
Yeah.
But then it closes my terminal.
I don't know if that's what it's called. Tilde is the thing above it. So command tilde or control tilde.
That also is the back to key, Doug. You are not wrong.
Jump back.
Yeah, but then if you do it again, you pop it back off.
Okay, so we should have our hello world printing out. So next concept we're going to move on to is variables. So there are 3 different kinds of variables in JavaScript. And these, we're not talking about the data type that the variable is storing. We're talking about the variable themselves. There are 3 ways of what we call declaring a variable. The first one is const, C-O-N-S-T, and that stands for constant, meaning the value cannot change, which is also known as an immutable value, right? That is basically saying once I set this, that value is never going to change. The opposite of that is obviously a mutable variable. And that's when we say let and our variable name. So the only difference between const and let is that, that it is changeable down the road. And then there's also var. And var is was the only variable type until more modern versions of JavaScript. So if you're reading someone else's code and you see var, you can just think in your head, hey, that's basically a let. That's going to be a mutable value. That's a value that I can change. However, all modern day JavaScript code, it is preferred to declare variables with either const or let and not use var anywhere. var, the JavaScript can do some more advanced things with let and const under the hood. And so it is always preferred to use let or const instead of using var. So we're going to go ahead and play with that. We're going to basically write out this code. So I'm going to go back to my VS Code and I'm going to say const, because I'm going to create a number here that doesn't change. And I'm going to say num1 is equal to 4. And then I'm going to put a semicolon at the end of the line. Semicolons are 98% of the time optional in JavaScript, but we want to be consistent with our spacing here. And that semicolon is telling it, hey, this is the end of the line. So when the next line comes, it knows to execute that separately. So we're going to do another const, and we're going to say num2. You can make your numbers whatever you want here. And then we are going to console log out our num1 plus our num2. So again, what we're doing here is we're saying, hey, go get the console. And when we're in the console, log it out. And then these parentheses are basically telling that console log command, what would you like to log out? We want to log out num1 plus num2. So what the computer's doing here is it's saying, okay, num1, num2. These are the first two things we need to evaluate. The computer doesn't even care about the console log at this point. So the first thing the computer does is drops those two values in. And it says, okay, while this code is running, first step, we got to get those numbers in there. Okay, now that's an expression because there's a plus between it. So the next thing the computer does is drops in the 3 and then goes to the console log part and goes, what do you want me to do with that 3? Then it sees that and shows you the 3 in the output. So just trying to get in your head here, this is the code that we wrote, but when the computer is executing this code, it is taking the steps of dropping in those values and then finally running the console log out. So when we go back and we make sure our file is saved and we go to our node playground, we got our 15 from the top. We've got our hello world still coming out, but now we've got 12 coming out because I happen to use 4 and 8.
Yep.
Question, Chess?
Oh, no, I was just saying it was good. Everything
Cool.
went through.
Okay, so now we run into some interesting stuff when we try and mix data types. So what happens if I put my 8 in quotes here? That we are now telling it is no longer a number.
Mine ain't doing that.
Okay, go ahead and share your screen.
Yeah.
Did you save your file?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, const needs to be in lowercase.
Oh.
Everything in JavaScript is going to be a lowercase.
Oh.
And num2 needs to be lowercase as well.
Okay. Shoot.
Okay. So we have now made our num2 here a string. And again, a string is just a string of characters or letters. So now we're saying num1 is 4, but num2 is 8 as a string. And so when we run this code, we get 48 printing out now. Okay, well, why is that? That's because whenever we use a plus with a string, no matter what the other data type is, it is going to try and add those two strings together. So that can actually be helpful. We can come in here and we can say const first name is equal to max. and my const last name is going to be equal to Matthews. Feel free to use your own name. I know you all want to be me, but it's okay to be unique. It's okay to be your own self. And now what we are going to do is console log our first name plus an empty space plus our last name. And again, we're going to be case sensitive here. So because I used an uppercase N here, I've got to use an uppercase N here as well. And then I'm using my plus. And if I didn't put the quotes in there with the space between, my first name and last name are going to get smushed together. So if I run my node playground, now I've got my name coming out all on one line.
Hey, Max, I have a question.
Yep.
Is there a reason that you use like first and then you capitalize name? Like, is that necessary, or I just want to ask?
Great question. It is not necessary, but it is JavaScript syntax. So there are different kinds of casing. One of them is called snake casing, and that's what Python uses. This is called camel casing, where basically, because most programming languages don't like spaces in your variable names, you want to keep them together. And so camel casing is putting everything lowercase in the first word, and then any following word after that, you make the first letter an uppercase. It is also common to see something like first dash name, but dashes don't work in JavaScript. So because we can't have a dash in the variable name, that's why we camel case it out. We have all of those subsequent words so that it's easier to read it, because first name is a little bit easier on the developer with a capital N than the lowercase n.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, you taught us that in CSS. I forgot. Okay, I just was wondering.
I have a question.
Yep.
Is it always gonna have a lot of spaces?
Spaces are totally up to you. So you're talking about the spaces here?
Also, like in the last console log, you have a space in between the plus and then a space in between the quotations, a space, and then like a space last name.
Yeah, so again, this is for readability. The computer is going to execute this just the same exact way. The spaces don't actually matter to the computer, but I find it easier to read this than to read it without.
Okay, so right, so if some other developer comes to read your code, that's going to be easier for them to read unless you take the spaces out, it would be harder for them to read.
Okay. And then the spaces are just to separate where we are, right? The other spaces.
Yes. Yep.
Got it. Thank you.
And Shantina, to your question, what math is actually getting computed to do 48? It's actually not doing any math, right? So because we told it is a string here, the computer is looking at num2 and it thinks num2 is just a letter. So whenever we use this plus operator with a string, it is called concatenating it, or literally just shoving the two together. So it knows 4 is a number, but because 8 is a string, it's literally just taking 8 and putting it right next to the 4. Okay, so we should have our name console logging out. We good there?
Yes.
And all of this is in the slide. So if you want to go back to those, that's fine. So we can also get some interesting things from the string. So we're going to use our first, what we call a property on a variable. If I would like to know the name, the length of my first name, how many characters is in my name, I'm going to type in first name dot, and then I'm going to put in dot length. And so now the computer is going to say, I know what first name is. First name is Max. What would you like to know about it? And if we put in this dot length here, it's going to know, hey, go return out the number of characters that is in Max's name, which is 3. Now we can get fancy here. What if I would like the name, the length of my full name? Well, we can do another console log, and I'm going to say name length is, and I'm going to put it in quotes. We have to put it in quotes because we're telling it, hey, this isn't a variable that we want you to go out and get. This is just a string. We want you to just dump that content out. Then we're going to use something new. We're going to use a comma in console log because we want to tell it, hey, we're going to send you more data in that we want you to console log out. And from here, we are going to say, we want you to log out the first name length plus the last name length. I'm going to save that and I'm going to run it and I'm going to get last name length is 11. So I'm going to pause there and see how you guys are doing.
I need help.
Okay, you want to share your screen?
Yes. Okay, so I don't see what I did wrong, but I keep getting this.
Okay, you're missing the word node before playground.
Where? Oh, yeah, I had, because I cleared everything out and then, okay, that's why. I was like, what am I doing wrong?
And yep, make sure you have the end in playground. One over, yep, there you go. Enter, and there you go.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have questions?
Yeah, I did everything good. I just wanted to know the purpose of putting the quotations.
Yep. So what we're doing is we're saying, hey, that's a string. So we're saying, hey, this is what I want the value to be, because otherwise it's going to try and execute that code and think that we're trying to give it more code for it to run. So basically what we're doing whenever we tell it, hey, these quotes, we're saying this is what the value of that string is going to be.
Mm-hmm. So when you got like this first and last name, you basically just put those quotations because.
Yeah, so here, this is a perfect example. I put this in quotations because it's not a variable. I just want that to console log out, those exact words. But first name is not in quotations because I want it to use the value of first name up here. So if I do, on this example, this doesn't have quotes in it, right? It doesn't have quotes in it because I want it to use this variable and use MAX as the thing it's getting the length off of. So if you look, we got 3, right? There's 3 letters in my name. If we did put that in quotes, it is then going to output 9. Well, why is it outputting 9? Because there are 9 letters in first name, not in the value of first name, not in MAX. Because we put that in quotes, it is now no longer retrieving the value of first name. It is just counting the number of letters in first name itself. So by leaving out the quotes, what it's doing is it's saying, instead of using it is saying, go get the value of first name and plug it in here. Is that making sense? Was that helpful?
Yeah.
So basically what we're doing here, this code is the exact same thing as saying the equivalent of this, right? Because think about it as an equation, right? Go back to your Algebra 1 class. What we're doing is this is X. And so what we're doing is we're taking max and we're plugging it in for X, and that's what we're running the length on. So this line is doing the same exact thing as this line. Any questions before we move on? Okay, so we can also store data as an object. So the most common example of this is we're going to have a const car, and that car is going to have a model, And it's also going to have a manufacturer. No chance I spelled that right. And it's also going to have a year. So let's say, now notice I did not put 2022 in quotes because that's a number. I put Tesla in quotes because that is a string value. I want it to say, hey, when I go get that manufacturer, I want the Tesla information. And same for the model, because that's a string, that's saying the value of model is now going to be model Y.
Are you making an object now, Max?
I am. This is because these are curly braces, the computer knows that it is an object. Curly braces are shift and the key above quote and return. So those curly braces, very good question, Larry, are telling it, hey, this is an object. And objects associate keys with the value that is stored in the key. So the first part of this is the key, and then we use a semicolon to tell it, hey, that's the end of the key part, and then we put in the value. And we can use any data type that we want for the value. So we're mixing and matching here. We're using this value is an integer or a number, and this data type is a string.
So Max, would those model, manufacturer, and year be considered properties if we were doing like Java or something?
They are, yes.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. We were doing like CSS and HTML. When we would start typing, something would come up and you could click on it. So I noticed when I was typing like console, then the .log, it wasn't coming up.
It's like intermediate, it's like medium now, like they ain't helping us that much no more.
Right. That's what I'm
doing it.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe it's me. I'll keep doing it. I just wondered if it was something different with
If you have a syntax error anywhere in your JavaScript, the autocomplete is going to stop working.
Oh.
So it's just like CSS or your HTML when you had a div tag that wasn't lined up and you hit save and it didn't do all the auto formatting. The same goes for your JavaScript. So look for any red squigglies because that's trying to tell you something's off.
I don't see anything.
Is your code still running when you run Node Playground?
Everything worked except when I did this car stuff that you just did. I don't see anything for that. Is that supposed to produce something?
No. So what we're going to do is we're going to console log out our car.
Okay.
So now when we run Node in our playground, we get all of this information here. But what if we only want one piece of that information? There are two different ways we can go in to our object. And all of this is covered in the slides, by the way. I know I don't have them up right now, but if you're someone who learns better off the slides than following along with me, you are welcome to get all of this information from the slide. So what I'm going to do is instead of printing out my whole car, I'm going to print out the car, and then I'm going to use a dot and type in manufacturer. And what that dot is saying is it's saying now don't only go get the car, go look for the key or the property manufacturer. And once you get that, this whole thing is now going to become Tesla. So I'm going to save and I'm going to re-execute my code. And now I don't get the whole car printing out. I only get Tesla. Because again, this part is going to here. The dot is saying, go look inside of this whole thing for the key or property called manufacturer. And then because it's Tesla, this whole thing is going to get dumped in here and it's going to console log that part out.
Still looking for it? That's easy. Just got it.
Okay, so the other way it's going to accomplish the same exact thing. We can console log out car, but instead of using our dot notation, we're going to use what is called bracket notation. So we're going to use the square brackets. that is again above your return key. And it is the square brackets, not curly braces, not parentheses. And now we are going to tell it, hey, I'm going to pass you in a string and let's pull out the model. So I'm going to save that code. I'm going to run it again. And now I get my model Y coming out. This dot notation.
It's an error, Max. I don't know if it's because I might have typed something in wrong.
Yep, go ahead and share your screen.
Car manufacturer. Car top.
You've got two parentheses around line 11. Yep, take one of them out. And same on the opening parenthesis. You've got two opening parentheses on line 11. Yep. Take out that opening one. And then that should be a plus, not an equal. And that's why Prettier keeps on putting it back in for you. So the first name equals quote plus last name. That equals should be a plus sign. Because what we're trying to get it to do is say, take the first name, add a space between them, and have the last name. So
what's that? What line was that?
Right, line 11.
Clear.
You have an equal, and it should be a plus.
Right here.
Yep. We're telling it, take the first name, add a space, and then add the last name to the end of it. Add those three together.
Okay.
And now when you save, you should be able to run your code.
Yeah, but I think I know why.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
I have a question.
With quotes around manufacturer.
Yeah. Oh, no, I didn't get that part. I didn't even get down. This is a cat part.
Max, can you share your page again?
Yep.
Can we go back?
Thank you.
Sorry, I will start a live share.
All right. So
I forgot to do that step. My bad.
He did it again, but it looks like he got rid of it. So I just have to I have to get rid of this now. Because it's saying I have double basically, which I do. So,
Oh, wait.
and then
variables that were the same.
got it. Thank you.
Right. You could, technically, you could do the same thing, but you
So
had to.
again, I will give you the reminder here. This syntax, remember when you were first starting HTML and you had never used an arrow bracket before? And think about what 4 weeks of HTML did, and then all of a sudden typing all of that was easier. So the important thing here is you will get the hang of the syntax. It will come to you more easily. The important thing is that you understand the concepts here. You understand, hey, this dot is telling it to look inside the object. You understand that objects have keys or properties, and then the value of that. You understand that there are two different ways of getting that value back out. You can either say dot, or you can use these square brackets. And there's one more benefit to these square brackets. If I would like to use a dynamic key, so I can say const key equals year. And then I can console log out my car's year. I'm sorry, my car's key. Bad Max. My car's key. Now we don't have this in quotes. So what this is telling it is, oh, because this is not in quotes, go find the variable key. That key is year. So this entire string is going to get put in where the word key is. Now it knows, okay, year, go up to the car. I'm in my car, go find the year, and whatever that year is, go ahead and put that in. So when I run that code, I'm going to, and remember to save it, I'm going to get 2022 coming out. So let me go through that process again. Sometimes it helps to have the visual. So when this code first executes, it's going to say, I need to find the key right here. that key is coming up over here and pulling in the key, which is going to get year and drop year in to this whole object. Then it's going to say year, where do you want me to get the year in the car? So the car is going to come up to this and it's going to find the car here and take my key of year, come all the way over to here. It matches on the year and it's going to get my 2022 and send that back all the way to my console log. And that console log is going to print out down in my terminal for 2022.
Okay, so it works from the inside out with the parentheses?
Yes.
Okay.
And if this is helpful to you, screenshot this, because there are times that I have to
How
go
I
into my
screenshot
code,
on a Mac?
Command Shift 3.
Oh, I didn't realize I was on, I'm sorry.
Are we following how this code is working?
So earlier you said something, did you say algebra?
Yes.
So basically what I'm gathering, because this is reminding me of doing formulas in Excel. So basically we're doing like a version of math with this.
Absolutely.
So JavaScript is how we can manipulate maybe data. Is that what?
Yep. Well, it's not only just for manipulating data, it will be for manipulating web pages, and it will be for sending data from one place and receiving it at another. It will be for interacting with the database and getting that data saved into the database or coming out of the database. It will do things like making a clock work on your website so that if you want the time to tick up, we can use JavaScript for all of that. We are just at those core fundamentals because, believe it or not, there are only about 15 concepts in all of JavaScript. And with those 15 concepts, once you get the syntax behind them, we are going to be able to quite literally complete the rest of this boot camp using JavaScript combined with the HTML and CSS knowledge we're already using. Now, the places we're going to use that JavaScript is different. Right now, we're using it in Node. Then we're going to get fancy and use it in the browser and understand how it works in the browser. Then once we've got it in the browser, we're going to go out and we're going to retrieve data from the internet, pull that back, and using these very concepts of accessing data in an object, we're going to get that data to show up on a website. Then we're going to take all of that and go, oh, that's cool, but how do I build my own API? How do I build my own place where I can not only get data, but I can save my data up there? Because if I'm able to do that, I'm able to then take my entire website and make it work for multiple users.
So the data, where would we put our own data? That's like, when I think of data, I think of access. So we would have our own version of access?
Yep, we're going to use something called Postgres, which is a variant of SQL, and that's how we're going to store our data. But we are going to use our JavaScript code to basically interface with the database and get data flowing back and forth.
I just feel like you scared me because I was thinking concatenate earlier. And then when you said concatenate, I'm feeling real nerdish right now, but I'm like, this is math. The whole time we've been doing this, I'm like, this is math.
So
okay.
Believe it or not, JavaScript is so powerful that Excel now supports JavaScript right inside Excel formulas. So you can actually write JavaScript code inside Excel. And if you put it in the right formula, it will actually run your JavaScript code for you.
Oh, wow.
I feel, yeah, this is a lot. It's not, but it is. It's like in the moment, it's like we're doing math.
Okay, so on these 5 lines of code, does anyone have questions about how we're accessing the object or anything like that?
Yeah, I'm getting an error on the key. I'm not really seeing what I did wrong.
Go ahead and share. You're missing the square brackets around key.
So on this one.
Yep. Yep, right there. Do a square bracket, not a curly brace.
Okay.
Yep, and then your closing one inside the parenthesis. Yep. Okay.
I have a random question.
Yep.
Just to prepare myself for this week. There's gonna be 3 homework assignments
Gotcha.
today.
3 homework assignments, 2 are free code camp, 1 is a calculator. The calculator is it says it's for day 1. We'll get to that in day 3 instead. So I'm actually going to edit the slides. There's one more concept I'm going to cover, and then I'm going to move all of the rest of these slides to day 3 because day 2 we are taking off. No class tomorrow. Instead, go to OpenHack if you're feeling up for it. And I will post a discussion topic for that in a couple minutes with a writing prompt that you can share your experience. And that will be public, by the way, so all your other students will be able to see it. Yes, Christy.
I voted. I want to change my vote because now that we've done this, I kind of don't want to miss class. I'm feeling like, I don't know, but that's just me.
So 1 vote is not going to tip it. We've got 12 people voting for going to OpenHack and 3 saying go to class. So unless there's a dramatic shift, I think OpenHack is going to take the win here.
Where is OpenHack? Here. It's in this building? Yes. It's right.
Max, you gotta hide the names that voted for OpenHack because she can see them. She got her hands ready like she's about to get us. I'm fine either way though, Christy, so you know. I can swing my vote.
I will say, if you're super excited about this stuff, OpenHack is very important because being able to socialize as a developer is something that is a skill that can be developed, right? Knowing how to be conversational, how to know what someone's talking about, knowing when to ask questions, all of that is important. With that said, if you're like, but I really want more JavaScript, free code camp is coming your way, right? And you can do both homework assignments. You are welcome to work ahead on those free code camp assignments. So do not feel like you need to save them until Sunday. You can definitely rip through them and they are going to recover most of the same concepts that we are covering now.
Yeah, I'm on that. So I've already, I started it already. So this wasn't totally not familiar, but yeah, I started it.
Awesome. Okay, so the last thing I want to touch on here is the concept of a parameter. A parameter is some data that gets passed into a function. So we're going to learn how to create our own functions and how to tell it parameters are coming in. But basically, this console.log has 2 parameters, and they happen to be strings that are being passed in. Parameters can be any data type, but the first parameter and the second parameter here just happen to be 2 strings. You can also pass in parameters dynamically. So we're not actually passing in the word num1 here because it's not in quotes. We're passing in the number of 5. But the definition of a parameter is any variable or value that is passed into a function. So console log is the function, the built-in function that we happen to be using here. But we will learn how to do our own functions down the road. That is where I'm going to stop. Everything that I taught tonight is covered in these slides. So if you have any questions, feel free to review them. I'm going to split these slides out. So all the rest of the stuff we will cover on Wednesday. With that said, if you have any questions, I will go into my Calendly and open up one-on-one slots. I'm actually going to do that right now. So if you have any questions, you can feel free to schedule me for a one-on-one, and you could even do that from OpenHack if you wanted to.
Are you going to go to OpenHack?
I would love to. I am still 5 hours away. However, I have hold on, let me pause the recording.
Here.